Hey folks, Open Pagan Church is brought to you by Conan Exile's Cynical Server. The Cynical Server over on Conan Exile's PS4 style has 8 times boosted drop on death, quick throwing, admin shop, mandatory Discord channel, PvP, raid events, and increased stamina. You get a starter kit over on Cynical Server. We like to thank Cynical Server on the PS4 format on Conan Exiles for sponsoring this week's broadcast. Hi, folks. Alright. Well, let's get our video up here. Do 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 do. Hello, Discord. Hey, you folks.
Morning.
So, I fixed the flicker in OSB.
Do that.
Yeah. Figured out what the problem was. Of course, yeah. If you'll notice, our broadcast background is now a live video.
And it's got the wrong topic.
Horse shit.
Because today's topic is paganism. The stress.
See, you don't even know what today's topic is.
The stresses of pagan in life. Yeah.
I cannot believe that's the one thing I forgot to do.
We're not perfect.
Hey, I'm perfect. Sometimes.
In our own ways. Morning, Lee. Morning, Kenny. They're in chat.
Hello, everybody. All right, so let's read what prompted our conversation for today. You know, it's like anytime we're not of the norm, as society would put it, it doesn't make any difference if you're not Christian, if you're atheist, gay, bisexual, of the lifestyle, as some folk put it. Doesn't make any difference. As long as you are different from the norm, it causes undue stresses on people living the lifestyle. Causes problems with families, it causes problems with society. And I think the actual question is, how do we handle that? What do we do? You know, I know we've kind of sort of covered this topic before, but I know that one of our listeners wanted us to go over mental health and paganism. Well, first thing I need to do is put out a disclaimer. I am not a licensed physician or psychiatrist or psychologist. I am a licensed minister and what's known as a spiritual counselor with well over 20 years of training, if you will. OJT, on the job training, right? So let's talk about some of the mental anguish that being not of the norm can cause. And I'm talking about any form of not of the norm, if you will. The norm is Anglo-Saxon Christian of one kind or another, or, you know, gonna be a goody two-shoes and do exactly what the good church tells you to. Anybody want to carry off on that one?
No, well, it's norm to, like you said, norm is to the individual, I guess you could say it nowadays. Because there is not a norm anymore because of all the pandemic and stuff.
Well, that's the new norm, and boy, has that been a stressor. Let me tell you. I mean, we're still essentially quarantined, um, and if you do go out, if you're smart, you'll wear your mask. Granted, it's not going to save you, but it does help. And I'm typically a man of science myself. I like to see the science of information out there, and that helps me deal with it mentally. You know, when you
But,
go ahead.
well, yes, but how the stress of the life, I guess you could call it. I'm not even saying about paganism. I'm saying about life
Yeah,
in general. Everybody's having trouble with stressing. There's events going on in people's life that, like Paul and his heart going on, and then I had a friend that her nana passed away. Not telling her name, but she's going through that stress, and it's how do you get stress relief of that? Are we talking about that also?
of course. I mean, the stress of life, not just. Of course, we're a pagan channel, so I figured I would throw paganism in there. But of course, the title of this broadcast would have to be way longer than Facebook really likes to place a title, um, or YouTube for that matter. But yeah, I mean, everyone is dealing with stresses in one form or another. And medically speaking, some stresses, they tell you some stresses are good for you. I agree because it teaches you to deal with life in general. Life's not a bed of roses, and it's damn sure not a nice soft bed of feathers. Roses have thorns, and feathers can poke you. So there's really no part of life where there is no stress. Um, Lee says, I normally let people know. Let's see, she says, I normally let people get to know the person. Get to know, I think she's trying to say, get to know who I am before telling them I'm pagan. She says if they have to be judgmental at that point, I brush it off like dust. A person can't hang on to all of that stress trying to please people. Very true. Very true. And it brings to mind I was talking to a fella that works at the same company I do, and he's out in field services. Well, he and I seem to, through chat, if you will, hit it off in a couple of times on the phone, helping him out. And he's like, well, do y'all have any plans for Halloween? I said, well, we're going to be doing Samhain. And he kind of giggled. And I said, I generally only take 2 holidays off a year. That's Samhain and Yule. And he kind of giggled. I said, what? He said, that explains a whole lot of your demeanor and your attitude, understanding that you're pagan. Now I thought that was cool. I said, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, no, it's a good thing. He said, you treat people with respect. He said, you listen to people. You listen to them all the way through when they're trying to explain something. And he said, you try not to interrupt. Well, yeah. I said, but isn't that just being a good person? He said, no. He said, I'm finding every day good people are assholes.
Yes, I agree.
So the interesting part is with Habit, right? Him and his wife used to do Hawkwood, the other side
Lord.
of in Roanoke. Not Roanoke. Yeah, Roanoke. I knew them from when I did Hawkwood. I talk about a real world. Of course, I never knew his real name. And once I told him, I said, well, Fair addresses me as Pegasus. He said, oh, hell, the guy with the big drum and the big canopy? I said, yep, that was us. He said, I'll be damned. So, the point to the story is you never know who you're going to meet. People, I don't know, people should never be afraid of their pagan faith, their Muslim faith, their Jewish faith, or even their atheist faith. And I know I've been told atheists don't have a faith. Well, they do, because they believe nothing is there. Thereby, that's a belief system. But dealing with the stress, that's as personal as what lifestyle you live. Everybody deals with stress differently. And we were talking to one of the young ladies that watch our videos on our last broadcast, I think it was, that prompted this broadcast, and bless her heart, she's not here today. Morning, Dave. And we were talking about how to deal with society-imposed anxieties, depression, bipolar, schizophrenic, multiple personalities, but most especially self-esteem issues.
Oh boy.
I mean, body shaming has always been there. And sadly, body shaming will always be there. But it shouldn't be. I mean, at one point, I was in a hell of a lot better shape than I'm in now. At one point, I had absolutely no problem doing a sky-clad ritual. Well, out of simple embarrassment, I don't know if I'd do a sky-clad ritual in a group full of people today. And I really shouldn't feel that way. People should not be ashamed of their bodies. I mean, especially if you're going to do something like a sky-clad ritual.
Go.
It's not necessarily their fault. It's society.
Right. Absolutely. And therein lies the whole point. If you're not of the norm in society, and you're not accepted as the norm in society, you're body shamed, you're put down. Say again?
Well, I was going to say, do you realize that America is the prudest country in the world?
To a degree, you're right.
I mean, sex is taboo. Naked bodies are taboo. If you look at other countries, they don't have the problem. Hell, in England, after 9:30 or 10 o'clock, You have full frontal nudity on public television.
I think you're right, but I'd have to look that up. But
It has to do. It still has to do with the child laws because children should be in bed by a certain time. So after 10 o'clock, they have naked weather, topless weather women.
okay, so shit, I'll be Googling that after broadcast.
You can prove me wrong, but I swear I'm telling the truth.
Oh, you may be right.
It's after 10 o'clock p.m. They have naked stuff on television, on public TV.
All
Do
right.
they have a leather weather lady?
Yep.
A leather weather lady?
Naked.
Oh.
No, it's called leather weather lady.
I'll definitely have to be Googling that one.
If you into porn, you'll notice there's a lot of times you'll see them walking down
Family Channel.
European. I'm sorry.
Well, and I mean, you know, Paul does actually make a really good point.
You said Family Channel, and here we are censoring ourselves.
Well, we have to on a family channel because it's
Because we're
9.
in America.
Well, yeah, and it's 9:46 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
In America on a Sunday.
Well, yeah, but I get it.
Okay.
But-
there you go.
Let's talk about the stress that that type of situation causes. It goes back to body shaming.
Yeah.
I mean, men can walk
Big women.
around without a shirt on.
Big women.
Yeah, big women. Women that are too skinny get shamed just as bad as women that are not skinny enough.
Do you realize that 250 years ago, women like Cindy would have been a commodity?
Yes. Yes.
Now, they're supposed to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. True.
I'm done.
But does that not go? I mean, let's think about 200 years ago. 200 years ago, you did not talk about homosexuality.
True.
200 years ago, you did not talk about,
sex.
huh?
Talk about sex, period.
Right. And 200 years ago, a Baptist could not marry a Catholic.
Or a Jew.
Right. So, I mean, we have, in 2020, we have gotten better. Homosexuality is legal. Interracial marriages are commonplace. Interreligious marriages are commonplace. Christians and pagans marry each other a lot.
Intrasexual.
Yes.
marriages.
Yeah, intersexual marriages. Even, you know, when you think about it, paganism, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there, paganism has no place for discrimination.
No, it does not.
No, because since paganism is a belief system based on nature, nature doesn't discriminate.
Right. Take the hurricanes that blow through.
Yeah.
Hurricanes don't give a shit.
I don't know. Lately, I think they've been discriminating on Louisiana pretty good.
Well, yeah, they beat the hell out of Louisiana. Let me tell you, Louisiana just had another one hit 30 miles off of where the one before hit. And let me tell you, my heart really goes out for those folk down along the southern border.
This is not that. Texas, Orange, and Beaumont. Delta had stronger winds on us than Laura.
Yeah. Yep. But how? Okay, one of the recommendations that I've always used when spiritually counseling people that have life stress issues, they have issues with anxiety, and most especially self esteem issues, I counsel on the 5 human elements. And I know there's a number of people that haven't really followed our broadcast through the years, so I'll quickly tell you what the 5 human elements are: spirit, physical, emotional, psychological, and sexual. Now, when I say spirit, I'm not talking about spiritual. I'm talking about the spirit, the self. If your physical is not in line with spirit, then emotional and psychological is going to be off. Morning, Jimmy. And when you're talking about the 5 human elements, again, that's what I counsel on. If you are shamed physically, that is going to affect the rest of the human elements. You want to say something? So if we're thinking about, if you're shamed physically, emotionally, psychologically, and sexually, you're going to be off balance. And all of those are going to throw spirit off balance. Now, of course, you can interpret the sexual element any way you want. You can interpret the spirit element any way you want. But physical is physical. It's the body. The thing in which our spirit resides. And when that is shamed or put down, beaten, abused, well, they've got emotional abuse, they've got psychological abuse, they've got physical abuse, they've got sexual abuse. And on a daily basis in today's society, we deal with spiritual abuse. Abuse of the spirit. What's that?
Well, I was checking. Sabrina's having. Yeah, it must be urine, Sabrina, because I hear him fine, and also the broadcast is fine. She's in chat, a Discord chat.
Yeah, I saw her. I wondered why she wasn't saying anything.
Reboot, Sabrina.
All else fails, reboot.
Reboot. That's like you were talking about that, the stress and everything. When I first met you, I was stressed out. Oh my Lord. Because I'd just gotten divorced from my first husband and was running amok. Finally, you settled me down after a while of how to de-stress my life. In other words, you told me that don't care what people think. It's what self it means to you. And then when I met Paul, I was still trying to run amok after my second divorce. And we kind of settled down and like, hey. And the same thing he told me. And it was more confidence I had in myself after that.
Self-confidence. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, self-confidence is a very shaky thing. I mean, if you think about self-confidence as a knife edge, when we're walking that knife edge of self-confidence, there's a fine line between being self-confident and being an arrogant git. I'll be the first one to admit I've had my bouts with arrogance. But you have to find that balance between being arrogant or a know-it-all jackass, and someone who's confident in their own actions and confident in their work. Sometimes I still lose the balance. You all will. Everyone will lose that balance between building self-confidence and being arrogant. But as you begin to build self-confidence and you go through that stage of arrogance, and you hopefully eventually find that balance, you will find that once emotionally you have the the balance and self-confidence, psychologically you know that I know the things I can do, the things I do, and the things I know I can do, I do them well.
Yes, you do.
Then, but you always keep the open mind of, no matter how much I know, I can always learn.
Correct.
No matter how much I think I know, the more I find I don't know.
Like we used to say, we're open book.
Yeah. And one of the jokes we've always told is the older we get,
Dumber we are.
the dumber we realize we are. Yeah, absolutely. I know
Yeah,
when
Walter was here.
I know when I was in my 20s and 30s and I thought I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof, I soon realized that I'm not 10 foot tall and I'm damn sure not bulletproof. But one of the recommendations, and let's talk about in this segment of the broadcast, let's talk about recommendations that we have, you guys in text chat and in Discord. By the way, segue to Discord, we have a never expiring invite that's in the description for Discord if you want to be heard, if you want to actually speak rather than type.
It'd be nice to get some of them in here to Discord.
Yep, I'd like to have more people in Discord, a little bit of a wider variety, if you will.
Right?
Diversity.
A diversity, he says, yes.
That's cool.
Diversity is a good thing.
You were talking just a minute ago about I guess self-esteem and how you feel about yourself and stuff. And one of my favorite actors who we lost way too early had a saying that I have lived by ever since, and that is, poke them if they can't take a joke.
I remember that.
I had to change your word because it's a family show, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do indeed.
And I'm sure you know who the actor is.
Yep, I do, but I can't pull the name to the front of my tongue for nothing. Who?
The great and glorious Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, that's it. Yep. Absolutely love Robin Williams.
Poke them if they can't take a joke.
Yes. Nanu nanu.
That's how I live my life. That's what I've tried to teach Cindy. To hell with what other people think. It's what you think of yourself and what you and what those that you want in your life think about you that matters. Not society.
Right. And therein lies another balance point, Paul. another balance point of to hell with society.
I used to say F the world.
Yes. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer in to hell with what society thinks about me. But at the same time, I care about what people think about the Open Pagan Church broadcast.
Well, I understand that. I understand that. And then it just comes back around because then it has to do with what they think about you.
Right.
Because you are the primary representative.
Right. So
it's a double-edged sword.
You're right. That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's a walking that sword. When people message me with ideas, I don't care to remember how many messages I got going, can you please try to stop that flicker? Well, it like it drove me crazy, that stupid flicker, and I accidentally figured it out.
Well,
But
it touches on the fact that to be who you are or be who you feel you should be, you can't make everybody happy.
brings back another old cliche saying, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time.
Right.
Well,
Exactly. So you're gonna stress yourself to the point of insanity trying to.
true.
And it's not worth it.
Okay, one of the other recommendations that I've given people is one of the things that a counselor taught me many years ago, and that is the note to self. The note to self, back in the day before there were sticky notes, the note to self is little 2-inch by 3-inch or 3-inch by 3-inch little notes stuck on the mirror.
They were stuck on the inside of my head.
Well, yeah. But I used to write notes to myself that says, you're not a bad person. Now, the interesting thing is, she told me, do not write the note to say, I am a good person. You need to reprogram the social programming of, I am not a bad person. So I wrote that, stuck it to the mirror, and she always said the key is put the square around the mirror so that you can still see your face in the mirror. Now, granted, a lot of people will start by plastering the mirror full of notes to self because they don't want to look at themselves. Part of the treatment.
But if you frame yourself in positive, you will then radiate positive.
That's exactly the point. Like, for example, the serenity prayer. Change the things I can and ask for the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. Is the beautiful young lady here that today that we tried to help the other weekend?
No.
No, she's not.
This would be a good thing for her to hear.
But if you frame, like Paul said, if you frame yourself in that positive, like, for example, I was an alcoholic and drug addict in the 80s, late 70s and 80s. I managed to get through it by reprogramming myself, I didn't need that. And for the last over 20 years now, I consider myself recovered, not recovering. And when a psychiatrist asked me, how come you consider yourself recovered? I said, what is the definition of an addict? He told me. I told him, I said, I have none of that. I have no draw to any of the drugs or alcohol. I have no need or want to take the drugs or alcohol. I have no draw to it. So in that, I no longer fall under the definition of an addict. But the way it's done is by reprogramming yourself that you don't need it. And for a number of people, that is really hard to do. I am damn sure not going to say it was easy for me.
Yeah.
And anybody that's ever been down the road of an addict can assure it's not easy. But the whole point is, does it not come down to reprogramming self? Self-esteem comes down to reprogramming self. How you deal with anxieties, how you allow things to affect you, comes down to reprogramming self. So let's take a moment to talk about how to deal with families who refuse to accept your lifestyle, your sexuality, your belief, how you feel, what you think. What are some of the ways we can deal with families?
Yeah.
See ya!
See ya! I hate to say this, my brother Clint is the only one that accepts me and my family for what we are.
I
Okay.
understand.
He's the same fate as us. He understands that. But my older brother, he's a deacon, but we can sit down and talk about it, and he's open-minded enough about it. But the other part of my family, I'm not even going to mention her name, I've washed my hands of her. She doesn't contact me anymore. I've reached out to her several times. She doesn't like me the way I am. All I can say is, that's their choice to not be part of my life.
It's not easy. I have to say, at the time of this video, October 2020, both my biological father and my birth mother are both living, along with my stepmother on my mother's side and my stepmother on my dad's side. That's a little confusing sometimes. And my mother and my stepmother have been together for now 40 years, and my dad and my stepmom have been together 40 years, I think. My dad and I don't talk much. We do call each other on our birthdays. He doesn't understand my faith. But I want to tell you guys a real interesting story. My mother, well, stepmom on my dad's side, was the principal of a Baptist school. Now, I'm not going to give the city or where it's at, but she was a principal of a Baptist school. When my grandparents passed on her side, my step-grandparents. Loved them dearly. They were beautiful people. I attended the funeral. I respected their faith. And I asked Mom, I said, do you mind if I honor them with a very short, very quiet rites of passage at graveside? And she said, knowing you the way I do, and she still calls me Donnie. All of my parents called me Donnie growing up, D-O-N-N-Y. She said, Donnie, tell me what this is. She said, I watched you grow up. She said, tell me what this is. She said, I know that I was taught paganism is of the devil. She said, but I don't ever see you being of the devil. I said, well, it's not. We don't even believe in the devil. So I gave her the 10-second version of what paganism was. She said, but being a principal of a Baptist school, she said, I have a degree in religion. I said, okay. She said, is that not the same kind of faith that the Egyptians, the Mesopotamian, and all of the ancient, she said, early Roman? And I'm sitting there watching her with my mouth agape going,
Yes.
wow. Yeah, exactly. She said, I would be honored if you would do your, what do you call it, your rites of passage? So I went to graveside as they were lowered down, and I did the rites of passage. And that taught me something. I was in my late 30s, but that taught me something, that it's not Christianity with the issue. It's the people of Christianity that has the issue. And I mean
Because
that,
it's all up to interpretation.
yes.
And those that interpret are not educated properly enough for the interpretation to be done properly.
But Paul, they have to want.
I get that, but the thing is, okay, all right. Let me. I'm gonna digress. I'm gonna try and keep it brief.
Go ahead.
Okay. The reason we are hated so badly, and it's gonna poke a finger toward one particular group, but it's not to really be overly detrimental, is because during the Crusades and things like that, writings were taken or burned and hidden away that gave the truth about our faith, and never allowed to be seen in light again by said religious bodies, to keep the masses from being properly educated. And if you don't believe me, go research it. You'll find it's true.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Take a look at the councils of Nicaea.
If you were ever allowed to go into the vaults of the Vatican, do you realize how much truth you would really find?
I would absolutely have a heyday.
Yeah, we would. All of us
You would find out that what we believe and what the Christians believe are the exact same.
Pretty much.
thing.
Pretty much. And well,
But the way the Catholics present it make us look like the bad guys, and they're the all-saving mighty.
Well, they're the ones that demonized women.
They demonize everything
Right.
that they don't like.
Right. And, you know,
The sheep stupid.
yeah, but Paul, you have to be willing to open your mind and listen. People have to be willing to become educated. You can't educate someone who doesn't want to be educated.
I realize you can't make the horse drink the water,
Right.
okay? But not allowing them to the opportunity is taking away what's that? You're taking away.
Freedom.
No, it was given to us through the Christian on day one. What is it?
Free
It's
will.
There you go.
Ding, ding, ding.
Away free will.
Well, okay. But that just goes right back to, and you know, Lee said, my family has always accepted my religion. So has mine.
Well, so did mine.
Now,
We were few of the lucky ones.
my dad had a problem with it. And Mom set him on the straight and narrow real quick.
Yeah.
But my mother and my stepmom here, they think it's cool.
Well, my dad, when I told my dad what I was, and Cindy can visualize this because she knew my dad and his mannerisms. He sat back and kind of folded his hands on his chest and looked at me and went, well, any faith is better than no faith.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Hey, he didn't get mad, but it was still a statement of acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my mom was into it so much, or accepted it enough to where she asked me questions.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
So I was one of the very few lucky ones.
as we wind down the broadcast.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, the points that we've made here today will hopefully help not just the younger generation, but the older generation that has been having trouble accepting themselves for who they are, whether they're pagan, atheist, agnostic, Jewish, whatever. What are some of the recommendations other than not giving a shit about what society thinks? Because they hear that all their lives, but they really actually need a direction. I've found that if you can give people direction, instruction, you know, I would recommend that you try this, this, and that. I threw out there about the sticky notes around the mirror and leaving yourself boxed in so that you're looking at yourself while you're reading these every day. When you get up in the morning and go to bed with it. I always found that helped me. If I read these things out loud to myself in the mirror, and yes, I felt like a total dummy standing there by myself in the mirror reading these things to myself. But after about 6 or 8 weeks of doing it every night and every morning, I begin to realize that these little pieces of paper are right. What are some recommendations that you guys, both in Discord and in chat, can give people as a direction to help them get past the issues with self-esteem, the issues with accepting self, maybe some tips and tricks on how you, whoever you are, may deal with bipolar, schizophrenic, multiple personalities. You know, what are some of the things that you could recommend to them? Lee says, I recommend they love themselves first. Well, that's a good thing.
That's it, but they gotta get to that point first.
Yeah.
Talk. Find someone to talk with. So someone that can help you hear your feelings and give you points without being judgmental.
Non-biased opinions.
Judgmental, whatever, either one.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yep, no, you're fine. A neutral party. So find a neutral party that doesn't care whether what faith you are. Find a neutral party. That's a good thought. Anybody else?
Music, if you want to find something relaxing, something to calm yourself down. I know some people get so stressed out. Meditation, music. I'm a gamer. I go in there and try and play my games, but lately that's not even working. So back to music and meditation for me.
Yeah, these times of this video, it's tough.
Pray on it.
Yep. And that's another thing. People say pagans don't pray. Sure we do.
Oh, yes, we do.
Sure we do.
We talk to our deities, no matter who they are. Yep. The other day, what was it, on one of the church programs, I watched non-denomination down here after we get done here. And they were talking about meditation and coming, talking to the ministers and everything. Why? You have deity. You have a faith that it's an open book, Talk to the gods. Or God, Jesus Christ, whatever.
Whatever, But, and I get that, and I agree. But if we don't listen, if
you can't make somebody listen.
No, but what I'm saying is, to those who are talking to their deity, if you're so busy talking that you don't have time to listen, are you getting anything out of it? Worth a thought.
True. You can talk all you want until you start to listen. There's no movement forward.
Right. So, we hope that our broadcast today was of some assistance to you and yours. Listen to this broadcast again anytime you need to. Pause, rewind, fast forward, whatever. Put your comments. If you're watching on one of our shared channels, I do want to let you know that we do upload to what used to be known as lbry.tv. lbry.tv is moving to odyssey.com. That's odyssee.com. Comments are welcome. Likes are welcome. Donations are okay too. Always, thank you for watching Open Pagan Church, and we'll see you next time right here. Have a wonderful day and have a good week.